It's that time. Welcome to Roadmap, how to take 3 listings a week until you're ready for more. Each week, we interview a great agent who's consistently taking several listings each month. And we have an exciting guest today. We encourage you to take notes and apply as much of their knowledge as quickly as you can. And then use the copycat principle. Let me introduce my co-host from San Diego, Carly Hathaway. That's carlyhathaway.com. Hi, Carly. How's the real estate business?
Hi, Ran. Hi, everybody. Real estate is great. Low inventory is so good for us. We're so happy.
Oh, I know. No, I mean, you list it on a Tuesday and you sell it on a Wednesday. And it's not a bad thing. That's a wonderful thing.
Not.
Before I introduce our guest today, I want to remind everyone that we are also simulcasting the show on the private lead gen group on Facebook. They have 52,000 members. So we have a large audience there today as well. We'll be pausing for commercial messages during the show as a thank you to the lead gen folks. Let me welcome our guest today from beautiful Palm Beach County in Florida, Boynton Beach, Boca Raton, all through there, Mr. Dan DeMott. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Thanks for having. Hey, Carly. Hey, Ren. Thanks for having me.
We are so excited to have you. Thank you so much.
Good.
I'm excited to be here.
So how's the real estate business? How long you been doing this?
The real estate business is fantastic right now. As Carly said, low inventory is amazing and low mortgage rates are even better.
Mm-hmm.
So we're having a lot of success right now. It's a great market down here in South Florida.
Fantastic.
I've been in the real estate business in different capacities for 16 years now, but just doing residential sales for the past 3 years.
So 3 years in just residential.
3 years,
Yep.
that's not too long.
So, I know for somebody that's rocking all of a sudden, that you've done a lot in 36 months.
I try to move quick.
Nice.
You are.
And what's your goal for the year?
My goal for the year is 20 million in production, at least 80 units.
80 units. I like it.
Beautiful thing.
And are you on track?
We're on track.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Good for you.
I think we'll get there. We might even exceed it by a little bit. The next couple months are ramping up. We've had a lot of growth in our team over the past 4 months, so that's going to be a big part of our success.
Awesome. Okay, so growth. So let's talk about your team structure.
Sure.
So you've only been in it for 3 years. I'm sure you started out by yourself as a solo agent, and then who did you slowly pick up along the way?
Yeah, sure. So the bulk of my growth has really been this year. But prior to that, I started as a solo agent. First year in the business, I did about 4 million of volume just on my own. Second year, I brought in, thank you. Second year, I brought in a part-time admin who helped me. And we got that up to just under 10 million, 37 transactions.
Wow.
And coming into the beginning of this year, I wanted to build a team. I wanted to get, those numbers up. And, the whole COVID situation came in and shut down. And for whatever reason, my mind clicked over to this being an unbelievable opportunity for me to grow in spite of everything that was going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the office shut down. I moved home. I actually, in all seriousness, set up my ironing board in my bedroom as my desk because I didn't have a home desk. I didn't have a home office. So I worked off the ironing board for the first 60 days of the shutdown.
That's amazing.
I just focused on growing. I, doubled down on prospecting. I doubled down on contacting my database, and started interviewing people for different positions on the team. I thought it was going to be a great opportunity to recruit people who needed some direction and needed to see some positivity, given what was going on in the world. And that strategy played out. We've built a great team now. We've got 3 full-time ISAs making phone calls using Vulcan7, full-time lead buyers agent, full-time listing agent, operations manager / admin, and a transaction coordinator.
Wow. And you've done all this just in this short period of time.
Yes, just since March 30th.
Awesome. And it seems like helping others is helping you.
Oh, 100%. I mean, my my big mindset shift for me was when I realized that if I wanted to achieve the goals that I had for my real estate business and getting out and helping customers, I needed to help a lot of other professionals, get them engaged at a high level, and focusing on what their strengths were. So yeah, helping people is a part of what the team does now out in the community and what I do inside of our office.
Wow. I think that's incredible. And I know Ren really holds that in high regard too. He's the same way. And it's like giving helps you. It makes you feel better.
Yeah. Well, if you come a contribution, you know, with your customers and your employees, both, I mean, then the money just finds its way back nicely.
It always does.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a big part of, I try to impart that same thing to my team. And I think it's a big part of the reason we have success in a lot of our outbound prospecting, because I train my team that we're not in the sales business, we're in the service business, and we have a value to provide to people. And when we're prospecting, we're not selling them something, we're contacting them about information that's relative and pertinent to their life. And we want to share that value.
Yeah, if it's a good
exactly,
value
and that
proposition,
mindset.
I mean, the right words come out of your mouth. If you don't have commission breath, if you're talking to them about how you can help them, then and mean it, then the right words come out of our mouth, and everything works well.
And sellers can sense that if you have commission breath or you're coming in service.
Yep. Humans, not just sellers, but all humans are good at sorting out what someone's intent is, and quickly, right? And it's the words you say and how you say them. But if you focus on having the right intent when you approach something, it comes through.
Definitely. And
one of the biggest challenges agents have when you were building this business is like on Monday, they're all ready to go. On Tuesday, they get distracted because they got this buyer. On Wednesday, they're not in the mood to talk to anybody. How do you do it on the days you don't feel like it, where you're making these calls and you're setting appointments and your team is doing the same thing? What's the mental side of the consistency?
Yeah, I think that certainly there's an aspect of discipline, right? But I've never been the most disciplined person. So I try to focus on how do we make it something that we want to do, right? And you got to have some containment and focus in it for it to be successful, at scale. But for me, it's about getting the team together, understanding why are we calling people, what are we sharing with them, why it's important for us and for them, and then rewarding, the results of that. And honestly, the success we have has started now becoming a feeding mechanism, right? Where we're checking in with our ISAs and our team on a daily basis, and we celebrate their victories on a weekly team meeting. We had earlier this morning our team meeting, and our 3 ISAs made over 1,000 outbound phone calls.
Wow.
Booked 12 pre-listing phone call appointments for last week. So a lot to celebrate, a lot of success, and so the whole team celebrates them in doing that, and it keeps them motivated to push through the week.
Nice.
Yeah, bringing that excitement in is very helpful for sure. Can we talk about your routine, your morning routine, like who you guys are calling?
Sure. So our primary prospecting technique is circle prospecting. So we circle prospect around any transaction that we either list or bring a buyer to. We use Vulcan7 to get that data, and we use the dialer to make our phone calls. And that's the key to our success. And like I said, it's a very simple script because the intent is right. We say, hey, this is Dan DeMott with Keller Williams here in Boynton Beach. The reason I'm calling you today is because we recently sold a property in your neighborhood. That sale is going to positively affect the value of your home, and we're calling to share that information. Do you have a minute for us to go over it? People respond extremely well to that. We don't get a lot of people hanging up on us. We don't get a lot of people telling us that they don't have time. But we do get a lot of people who say, thanks for reaching out. Thanks for sharing that information. That's interesting. Put me in your database, check in. And when there's a more immediate need for a conversation, we elevate that to a scheduled time to really dig into the numbers and the comps and give people advice on what their home would be worth.
I love your approach. When I think about that, I think of 2 or 3 things there. Number one, you're calling people that a whole bunch of other people are not calling.
Correct.
And number 2, you have developed a script that is low rejection. It's an informational call. Mm-hmm. And they can either, if they're thinking about moving or whatever, and you're asking a permission question. I noticed that permission question. then if they're interested, they're going to grant the permission to go over that. So it's very well constructed. So I can see your ROI on that being very, very high. And thanks for sharing that, because a lot of people call and do the circle prospecting, and it can be very high rejection based on the script that they're using. And this one's beautifully done.
Thank you. Yeah, we've had a lot of success with, I'm sorry, go ahead, Carly.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we've had a lot of success with it, and have kind of refined our follow-up process around that, right? In terms of building out our pipeline. What we found is that script is very inviting. And so we do get a really good reception. And so we've had to kind of create this new category, which we call a market evaluation, right? Instead of like a pre-listing or a listing appointment. So we never go for the close on that first phone call. But we kind of move people forward through that process. And this market evaluation call is something we've developed where our ISAs were building in such a short time a real relationship, right? And that person wants to actually have a serious and focused conversation, but they may not necessarily be immediately ready to transact. So we've created this market evaluation call where we have a template that we send them out an email in advance, sharing some information we're going to review. We scheduled the time for one of the agents on the team to contact that person, and then they can take the relationship from, a seedling to, something really substantial in 30 minutes, where that person now is really connected to us as a source of information for their home. And in that call, we're able to get a fair bit of information as to, what their timelines are. So what we're finding is that those calls are turning into our 6, 9, and 12 month out pipeline of people who clearly they're thinking, but they're not ready to be sold today.
Right. I like the market evaluation versus pre-listing, because pre-listing is sort of like saying, hey, we're just coming out to hard sell you and sign you up. But with the market evaluation, they're basically saying, we're interested in doing something sometime soon. Now, therefore, somewhere I have to believe you're asking certain questions that gives you clues as to the strength of that lead. What would those little clues you're looking for, and how would you word those kind of questions so that you can rank them on a passive interest versus they're moving in the direction to make something happen here in the next few months?
Absolutely. Well, I would tell you that it's not specific questions we ask so much as it's, building that relationship. And like I said, I train my agents on, hey, we need to understand what's their motivation. Why are they taking time out of their day to talk to us about it, right? So you have to have that conversation. And to me, it's about being very natural about it. Understanding, if you were to sell, why would you sell? Yeah. Where are you going?
What's important about, what's important about the next, Yeah, exactly. If you could move anywhere, where would you go next, or something like that? So you're asking something in a way that asks them, what's the next dream home or whatever, and then they paint the picture for you, and based on that picture, is that kind of the question?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times, especially in this market, what we're finding is people are solving problems, right? People have, I'll give you one example, a client we're talking to right now where, they had they did some renovation work on their house. They've decided now, given everything going on in the world, they need to be closer to their elderly parents, right? And maybe combine into one household. So they need to balance selling their home for top dollar, which is why we initially approached them, with selling, the mother's home, which has some challenges, and then ultimately bring those two sales together into purchasing one new home that's good for this multi-generational family. That's a complex problem.
Yeah.
That you have to kind of have a nice conversation with and understand, but it gives us such a strong position to come from value and say, hey, we now understand what you're trying to accomplish. We can help you get there.
So many agents don't really learn what the seller is trying to accomplish. They don't ask enough questions. If you sold this, where would you go next? How soon do you have to be there? You got to ask what's important about that. And what do you envision? What are all the things you're considering? Getting a full picture.
Yep.
Because once you have that full picture, then you know exactly how you want to. So somewhere you've got a process where you're asking all these pictures that paints this thing, and then you decide, is this something in the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months out, whatever it may be.
Yep.
So
a lot of those
you've got this down well built.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate that.
And so let me ask you this. So when you do those follow-up calls, or when your agent does that follow-up call, when do you do it? How long after the first conversation?
So the goal of every conversation is to book that next step, right? So on our initial phone call, the way our script works is, if someone has some interest, if it's a very immediate interest, yeah, you know what, we are thinking about selling right now. Great. Let me book you an appointment, a listing appointment with one of our agents. They'll come out and go over everything. If it's dialed back a little bit, so, we're thinking about it, or we'd like some information, then they book that market evaluation phone call on there. If someone is not interested, then the script is to always close for getting a email, verifying the email address, and ask if we can just add them to our database to keep them updated on what happens in the market.
Gotcha. So there's like 3 different files that you're putting in.
Yeah, because the conversation opener is so strong and we're not getting outright rejected, we're kind of been able to develop the latitude to kind of walk people through some options depending on how interested they are.
Right. And at some point you're doing comps for people that may be 8 months out. So do you just give them a range? Because price is sort of a moment in time, if you will. Yeah. What do you do with that person that's 8 months out, but they want to know a price today? And that's kind of hard to crystal ball that. What is it, a range?
Yeah. So we do a very high level comp analysis. And because we're mostly circle prospecting, right, we kind of know in advance before we're making those phone calls what the area is. And we can give some kind of range. We pull the comps we want to share with people in advance, so we're prepped for that. And part of our process that I've developed is that I share that information openly before we even have that call. So our ISA calls someone, they're interested in having this market evaluation. They close the appointment and put it on the agent's calendar. They then send the email out to the client, copying the agent, saying, hey, we're really excited to speak to you tomorrow at 2:00. Here's a link to view some comps in your neighborhood. Here's a link to view our team, profile, so you can learn a little bit about us. Dan's going to talk to you tomorrow about more specifics. What I found is sharing that information, even though it's more broad and doesn't necessarily pinpoint the value of that specific property at the moment in time, gets people more invested in our process, right? We're giving them value before they've even talked to us. So that change has increased the number of appointments that we keep, right? We have a very low no-show rate because people are invested in us. They get the comps. We know what they looked at them. They're more likely to show up to that follow-up call. At that point, the agent can kind of vet out what's the motivation, what's the timeline, learn some specifics about the property. They'll help us narrow that range in. But by then, there's a relationship building.
And you're really educating them very well there.
Yeah.
As opposed to whipping out 3 sales. Here's 3 comps. Bump, bump, bump. You should be at this, which is you can't do 8 months out.
Right.
So
and the
you're
other
really
thing
giving them a lot of stuff early on. I like the whole process. It's very well constructed.
It is. It's very well constructed. I like how organized.
And I like the fact
like
that you're going after business that where it's low rejection, but a good high yield if you're very organized about it. It has to be very organized. That's for sure. How are you managing the structure of all that? Because it's sort of like Boomtown for listings or something,
I mean, essentially we're trying to create something like that, right? How do you build that? That's always been the challenge. My business, by virtue of my style, has always been listing heavy. I've never been a really good buyer's agent. And the last person that came onto our team was a buyer agent because I needed the right person to help build that process out for us. But coming from always going for listings myself, that's the challenge, right? There is no easy way to pay money and get seller leads that are reliable yet anyways.
Right. Well, you've done it. You built something that gets that seller business, and the seller business is a much easier side than the buyer side. I mean, except for a buyer agent on a team like that, where you've created all these homeless people, that person, that
person's staying busy.
The people have nowhere to live.
Right. But yeah, so it's about building out that process for us. And it is about going after, blue ocean, so to speak. We'll go where people aren't looking and find people.
Yeah, the blue ocean strategy. I remember that. Yes.
Yeah. And Vulcan7 is a big part of our success there because it allows us to do that at scale, right? We can get multiple people dialing. We can get them to be very efficient. So our number of conversations per hour has gone up substantially. And you start to get that that progress.
This is exciting. I want to come down and visit your operation as soon as I don't have to look like the Lone Ranger with a black mask on.
Anytime.
And I'm serious too, because I think you've got an efficient piece going on here that's repeatable, duplicatable.
Yeah.
So
I like how systematized it is. It's like very easy to follow.
It's very well thought out. Very well thought out because
I appreciate it. A lot of rapid learning, right? So one thing that I always make sure is that we're listening to what are people doing, right? So we record everyone on the ISA team. They do script and role play by Zoom because we're not all in the office at the same time these days. So they do that in the morning, and then they do their phone calls together on Zoom so they can listen in on each other. And we record some of that so we hear one side of the conversation. So I told you we've developed that market evaluation piece, and that's something we've just happened kind of over the past 2 weeks because one of our new members on the team started booking these appointments on her own. And all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second. Well, why isn't anybody else booking these appointments? Like, let's watch the tape and let's see how she's doing it. What is the conversation that she's having that we weren't having before that unlocks these new kind of appointments that are helping us build a pipeline further down the funnel?
That's so smart and so amazing. I think when you're on a Zoom too and you're prospecting, it helps you to stay prospecting. You're not going to go check out for a little bit. You're going to stick with it because you're with everyone.
Right. Carly's on a lot of those every week on prospecting Zoom calls. So yeah, I'm
sure.
It's and I like what you're doing. It reminds me, there was a thing called the military close that was that came about, and they called it that because there was this recruiter that was signing up people into the Army left and right like crazy. What's he doing? And they recorded it and they mapped out the scripts. So what you're doing is, the efficiency piece, like who's running a high batting average and what are they saying? Who's on the low end? They need to be listening to these people. So very well done. Very well.
Yeah. Very impressive. And only 3 years. Like, that's amazing.
I know.
Wait, what's on your vision board? What's the next big purchase or what's the next vacation?
I'll be honest. Someone recently told me I needed to focus more on rewarding myself. So, so that I don't know. I haven't been much of a vision board person, but I, my families do some rewards. Let's say that they've made a lot of sacrifices to help me build this, and we're getting there. I'm looking forward to getting, the rest of this year where we want it to be for the next one to be as successful. Again, we're hoping to expand substantially next year, and once we have that set up, then there'll be some vision board time for sure.
Dan, thank you so much for being here. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be moving to Florida soon, so where can we send referrals?
I appreciate that, Carly, very much. Always available on our office line. You can call or text 561-329-4972. Once again, that's 561-329-4972. Or feel free to send me an email, dan@homesourceteam.net.
One of the things we like to do on Roadmap, and we've done this, is we talk to somebody like you, and you're doing 80 transactions,
80
and your county is like 100, is like 210 anywhere else in the U.S. So, which is a wonderful number. But we'll check back in a year and a half, 2 years, and your numbers keep going way up through the ceiling. So we would like to check back with you.
I would love that.
We want to come do the interview in your mansion next year.
I do too.
That'd be good.
Or on your yacht, either one, the mansion or the yacht.
It's a private island. That's what he's buying.
Oh, okay.
Good. All right. Well,
Dan, thank you so much. This was so incredible. I think everyone's going to rewatch it many times. I love the market evaluation. It's great.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure. I'm happy to share. Glad to share it with your audience. And again, thank you guys for putting together a great tool that helps us do this kind of business.
Great. And folks, if you're watching on Vulcan7, you want to get involved with the Lead Gen Facebook group that simulcasts the show. They are at facebook.com/groups/got objections. And finally, if you're watching on Facebook and you're not yet involved with Vulcan7, can't imagine, make sure to sign up at vulcan7.com/lead gen for a special deal. And finally, a lot of people ask, what is Dan DeMott's secret? You think he's just got this well organized, but really there's this secret power because he's on the listing side of the business. What he does, and He does this around noon every day. He goes to the freezer and gets out delicious Grater's mint chocolate chip. This is the one for listings. This is the listing side of the business. If you're working on the buyer side, you know the flavor. It's called Rocky Road. So get this, go to Graters.com for a store near you all over North America where you can pick up the mint chocolate chip. It's the power to list property.
I was glad that you plugged the Grater's ice cream. So before I did residential real estate, I was in commercial real estate on the finance side for about 8 years. And my partner in that business was from Columbus. And whenever we would close a transaction, we celebrated it by sending everyone involved a case of Grater's ice cream. It's definitely the best ice cream there is.
That's it.
So
and
cool.
The mint chocolate chip for residential real estate. There's a little secret if the listing is slow to sell, and it isn't this time of year. In this market, but if it ever is, you take it, you dig a hole in the front yard, and you bury it upside down, and that house will sell just like that.
I believe it. The power of good Ohio ice cream.
Have a great
Bye,
week,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you so much, Dan.
See you next time.
Thank you.
See you next Wednesday, everybody.